Albert Dumont, also known as South Wind, is a poet, storyteller, speaker, and an Algonquin traditional teacher. Albert has dedicated his life to promoting Aboriginal spirituality and healing, and to protecting the rights of Aboriginal peoples, particularly the young. Mr. Dumont.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and good morning. Welcome to the lands of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe. It's good to be here. I really do feel like I'm among people of my own kind here, because I guess 28 and a half years ago, I was working as a bricklayer, and I was 43 feet off the ground repairing a chimney on a gristmill roof. And the roof buckled, and the tower section of scaffolding I was on collapsed, and I was right up at the top. So everything was heading for the ground. So I didn't think there was any chance I was going to live, and for some reason I wasn't afraid. I don't know why I wasn't afraid. I just accepted that the end of my life was going to occur. But then a thought flashed through my mind, and the thought was that maybe if I landed on my feet, I wouldn't die. And I managed to land on my feet. You know, a witness came to see me in the hospital a few days later, and the witness said that it looked like I was trying to fly because my arms were moving so much to keep myself in position to land on my feet. But I broke my back. I crushed 2 vertebrae in my back. I cracked 2 vertebrae in my back. I cracked my spine above and below the damaged vertebrae. I broke my right heel and my left ankle. And I wasn't wearing a shirt that day because it was April 25th, but it was a hot, sunny day. And there was 3 places in my upper body where my skin was peeled back like a sardine can. And I had 4 inches of collapsed nerve in my left arm. And the nerve specialist at the Civic Hospital said my left arm would never recover because it was paralyzed like this, right? But it came back. I didn't believe the doctor when he said it wouldn't come back. If I would have believed him, it never would have. You know, I believe in the spirituality. I believe in being strong-willed. I believe in being determined to overcome all kinds of things that you're confronted with in life. I accept that I live with chronic pain. You know, I had almost a pound and a half, I guess, of stainless steel nuts and bolts holding my spine together for almost 2 years. And as I'm aging, the pain is getting worse. And the doctor says that it's because the fusions are staying the same, but the spine is aging. And so it's the pain is increasing. I don't take anything for pain. I don't take any kind of medication. You know, for me, it's whenever the pain is excruciating, I just think about the fact that I could have died that day. And I think about the fact that I wasn't paralyzed because of my accident. And so I'm fortunate. And it makes me accept the pain. And to me, I've come to a point where I really appreciate that physical pain is really a cakewalk compared to emotional pain. You know, we have to look after ourselves emotionally first and foremost, because if you're not emotionally well, you know, there's nothing else going to get through to you. You know, the spiritual or the psychological, physical health, it gets kicked to the curb, as my granddaughter would say. We have to look after ourselves emotionally. You know, after my accident, I was grateful that I wasn't killed or paralyzed, and I wanted to do an act of thanksgiving. For me, it wasn't enough to say to Creator, thank you. So I wanted to do an action. And what I did is I volunteered at St. Vincent's Hospital in Ottawa here. It's a hospital for the chronically sick, I guess. And I volunteered there for 9 years, working with a Cree man from Moose Factory. His accident happened when he was 30 years old. I met him when he was 35. I was his good friend for the last 9 years of his life. I volunteered at St. Vincent's every Wednesday morning. No matter how busy my life was, I went to the St. Vincent's Hospital to visit with Mike. And we became really solid friends. And I miss him to this day, and he taught me lots of things about, he used to say some things in life, cannot be sugar-coated. It's foolish to try. Just say it. So I learned that from Mike, and he said he learned some things from me too. I hope he did. It was a good friendship. But that's the thing about having that. I guess when somebody that lives with chronic pain, it's you can't dwell on it. You can't just feel sorry for yourself and sit on a pity pot. That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make no sense to me anyway. I have my daughters. I'm not, I don't have any sons, I have daughters. Buffy St. Marie said to me one day, "You're blessed with daughters," and indeed I am. I've got 3 granddaughters and a grandson, and every day I begin my day with a prayer, and they're included in it. I've got a prayer list. There's always something to be thankful for, even if your health's not good. Well, the health of somebody you love is good, and we're thankful for that, right? Anyways, for me, I enjoy life. I live life to the fullest. I don't let too much slow me down. The Chief Crowfoot said on his deathbed in 1878 that life is the flash of a firefly in the night. And it is. It's there, then it's not there. We only have so much time to make some purpose of life. I had severe addiction issues, and just over 30 and a half years ago, I shut it down. I wanted to give my life purpose. I didn't have much purpose before that time. But no matter what shape anybody's in or whatever, their mind works, and they all have feelings. Everybody has feelings. Everybody wants the water to be good, for the future. The wind and all these things need to be kept pure for the sake of our next generations, because I don't know what shape the human beings are going to be like in 100 years from now. It's pretty scary to think about it sometime, but at least, if we stick together, let our roots intertwine, Indigenous roots with everybody else that came here after we arrived. We should be in solidarity. We should care for one another. And that's the way it is. So this prayer you're going to hear now is a prayer that's probably been in this country for thousands of years, and it's a prayer from Temagami First Nations, from a Second World War veteran named Bill Twain. He was wounded in the front lines in the Second World War, and that was at a time when Bill Twain didn't have the right to vote. People of Bill Twain's generation and my dad's generation, they had to go and see an Indian agent to leave the reserve. Indigenous spirituality was outlawed at that time. So this prayer you're going to hear now, it was against the law in Canada, believe it or not. And that's a fact. It's a sad history as the Indigenous peoples are impacted. But, that's... I want everybody here to know something. I've never hated anybody in my life. I cannot bring myself to hate anybody. There's no payoff to hate. Hate does not make any sense. And that's a fact. So we have prayer, though, the ability to pray. I don't know anything about anybody else's spiritual beliefs in this room. But I can tell you this much, spiritually, you're gonna like this prayer. And please just stay seated. I want to say to that good spirit, Minumanado, how grateful we are for everything that Creator placed in our homelands that help human beings to live well. We acknowledge and honor every tree, river, lake, and stream. We acknowledge and honor every bird, animal, fish, and all the good human beings. We're grateful for all those things in the sky world and all those things that live beneath the surface of the earth. We're grateful too for the bees and all the other insects that help the plants to grow. We're grateful for our ceremonies and for our medicines. We're grateful for our ability to prepare ourselves spiritually for that spirit world that will begin when this short physical life ends. We're grateful for our ability to bring peace and comfort to one another during times of troubles and times of anguish. We ask you now, good spirit, to fill this space with your blessings and to touch each of us with the wisdom of our Anishinaabe ancestors. We ask that there will be good words spoken at this conference, strong words that will impact all these good people emotionally and spiritually. We ask that if there's anybody here who has a relative who's suffering somehow, whether from depression or addiction things or some kind of physical sickness, we ask that that relative will have a good day today. We ask that that relative will return soon to the family as a role model and as a mentor. We ask these things of you, good spirit, because of the great respect we have for everything that Creator has made. Miigwech, I know you're going to have a good time.
Thank you again, Mr. Dumont, for that moving prayer. And also for the moving personal story you told. Thank you. Okay, what I'm going to do very briefly next is just review the goals of the overall Disability and Work in Canada initiative and the goals of this conference. And then in a little while, the steering committee is going to come forward and talk briefly about highlights of the draft strategy document that was sent out in advance. So the Disability and Work in Canada initiative really began over a year ago, and there was a conference that many of you would have been at a year ago. The idea being to work together to develop a vision and strategy for increasing the employment of people with disabilities that will inform and guide the efforts of governments, employers, and other stakeholders. In other words, to try to develop a strategy that can draw on our shared values so that we can move forward together to really achieve something here in increasing the employment of people with disabilities. So this conference in particular, there was a draft strategy document that was sent out in advance. We'll be talking about that in a moment. Very much a preliminary draft, and that's really important to understand. That's a draft that has been put out for discussion here, and for consultation, discussion after as well, in light of what we hear in the next couple of days. And so the idea is through that process here and after, that we will try to foster a consensus, a broad consensus and collaboration, a sense of partnership opportunities on the key elements of this strategy. An overall vision, the key pillars, key areas of action to achieve that vision, and then key proposed initiatives under each of those pillars. So that is how the draft is laid out, and that is what we're going to be talking about over the next couple of days. There'll be some presentations that provide some more context for that, but there will also be a great deal of discussion and opportunity for feedback about this. And the idea then is to inform plans for the path forward over the next couple of days, to inform plans for the path forward after the conference and subsequent consultations.